podcast. My name is William and today Ishan and I are going through our 2020-2021 takes for the NBA season. You've got 11 takes each, I believe.
Yeah, I have 11.
I've got 11, and we're going to be going not in order from hottest to coldest or coldest to hottest, but we're just going to go through our takes. You can be the judge of how hot they are. They're going to be relatively hot. We're not going to be like, the Lakers will be good. No, I mean, they're more thought-provoking than that. But let's start it off, Ishan. What's your first take for us?
Oh, my first take was that the Lakers were going to be good. All right, for real, this one, it's not too hot compared to some of the other ones, but I think that Zion Williamson, John Morant will both elevate their games to another level, and I think they'll be all-NBA caliber players, and I think they will make an all-NBA team. Zion, I feel like, is going to average, this might sound crazy, but 25 plus, 8 plus.
He averaged 23 last year, so.
Yeah, I think it's totally doable. Just looking at his preseason tape, he just looks better. He looks like a better player. He's added other aspects of his game that I'm really excited about. And then for Ja, I think it's tough for him being in the West when you have the LA teams, Portland, Denver, Phoenix, Dallas, New Orleans, just off the top of my head, those teams. And I don't think he's going to make the playoffs, but individually, he's going to make a lot of strides in this game. Once again, from preseason, he looks better. He looks a little bit more bouncy for some reason. From a scoring perspective, he looks better too. And I think that he could average 23, 24 plus points and maybe 8 or 9 assists, best case scenario.
Well, I'll disagree a little bit with the Ja take because I think it's going to be hard for him to find his rhythm without Jaren Jackson. I think that the problem is that I don't think he's going to be averaging 23. Obviously, I would like him to. I drafted him in my fantasy team this year because obviously we both love Ja. But yeah. I can see him averaging a little bit more towards the 17, 18 range like he did last year. I just don't think – I think with the added offensive burden on him and the second season in the NBA, I think a lot of teams are going to be keying in on him because he is the best player on that team by a mile. And I think that a lot of teams are just going to focus him hard on defense. And that's why I see a little bit of struggles coming in, but still, Ja Morant is going to have a good year.
Yeah. I think that either that or it drives up his assist numbers because he will have Jaren back, I think, by mid to late January, which is what I read.
But it won't be Jaren until February.
Yeah. Valanciunas is very underrated in my eyes. He's a very good, well-rounded center. Kyle Anderson is a very unique player, and he'll provide some relief for Ja. And then Desmond Bane was the rookie that I really liked, the shooter out of TCU, and I think that he could have some impact. But then Brandon Clark, too. We both love Brandon Clark. We were both really high on him. And I think that if he takes another leap in his offensive game, then it'll kind of ease off the pressure for Ja a little bit to break the 20-point threshold.
Well, similar take, but not exact, but relating to Zion. My first take is the Pelicans become a top 10 defense, and Brandon Ingram becomes an all-NBA player. So let's start off with the first part of this take, that that the Pelicans become a top 10 defense. Last season, this team was woeful defensively. Although they had the talent, they had Lonzo, Drew Holiday, Zion Williamson, they could not put it together on the defensive end of the floor to be competent. They were giving up 110, 120 points at the beginning of the season every game. It was a nightmare to watch the Pelicans on defense. And I think the real reason why I'm so high on the Pelicans defense this year is that is the only thing, or the primary thing Stan Van Gundy is preaching. Like JJ Redick said it best, their first project was 3 hours straight of defense. He wants grit. He wants tenacity. David Griffith looked for that when they did their whole their whole draft. They built their whole team about an identity, a defensive identity, and about grit. And I think that getting in Steven Adams, and then just looking at Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson, they've been focusing on defense. I know Zion's obviously doing a lot for his offensive game, but what the coaching staff wants to push is their defense. And Brandon Ingram looked great on defensive end on the first game against the Heat. And I think that this is going to continue. I think that we're going to have, leading in Brandon, I think that defensive ability harnessed with this lethal mid-range game and overall offensive versatility is going to make him a weapon that's going to be almost impossible to stop for most teams. Brandon has a skill set that we haven't seen in a lot of players. I mean, the size, the athleticism, and the shooting ability makes him such a lethal combination. I think that he is really going to take the step this season because Branningham, with the coaching staff, with desire and with a identity, which was completely lacking under Alvin Gentry, I really have a lot of faith in this Pelicans organization. And I think there's going to be a good culture built here because they have something they want to achieve and they're going to go out there and get it. And as Branningham said, when he got it paid, they're not missing the playoffs again in his career. Well, that's what he wants, obviously.
That's good to hear from Ingram. And yeah, I think that I know we were talking about this earlier, the whole idea of maybe staggering the minutes of Zion and Ingram. So defenses will be on their toes at all times because guarding Ingram as opposed to guarding Zion Williamson are two very different tasks, and they're both very hard to do. So I think that'll keep defensive honest. But I think the coaching will make a big difference. Looking at the stats last year from TeamRankings.com, New Orleans was 17th in defensive efficiency. So just right about it.
That's misleading.
Yeah, it was a little bit misleading, especially late game defense was not their strong suit. But I think now that Van Gundy is here, he's worked with Dwight Howard, who was a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year award winner and just a monster in his prime. And he's worked with other solid defensive teams, and I think that he'll bring an identity to this team, and I think he'll bring just good defensive and late-game defensive play calling. And also Steven Adams will be there.
I mean,
it's going to be a strong front court.
There's not a front court that I think you would least rather face in a fight than Steven Adams and Zion Williamson. Those are two of the craziest strong guys on the court. And I think that the staggered minutes thing is really a cool concept to me because if you think about it, Brandon Ingram's game is more isolated. And I think that what you want to do is you want to get this is what Gundy has said is that you want to get Zion heading at the hole with a whole head of steam, like Derrick Henry running the ball. You can't stop it when he's going at full speed. So that ISO game does not really match perfectly with Zion's game. So giving them their own time to lead the offense as the primary player, I think is going to be best for their offensive and defensive ability because they are the focal point in each of their systems. So there's not going to be a time where the Pelicans are taking any time off, and they'll be consistent throughout the game. So I think this is going to really bring out the best in the whole team. And I know I wasn't happy with the Gundy hire at the beginning, but from what I've heard from him, he's got a plan and he's putting in the work. So I'm really liking what they're doing here. So overall, I think this is going to be good.
Yeah, and I think from a health perspective, just starting off with some stagnation with Ingram and Zion, I think that it will kind of help ease Zion back in to just to the NBA as a whole to make sure that he's healthy and ready to go. So I think it will do wonders for Zion's health because if you play him too many minutes, he can screw up, something can happen. And with a player of his stature and the way he plays, one bad injury could really ruin his career.
I think he played 10 minutes in the first quarter in that first preseason game. I think that's something he's going to look forward to because getting him in rhythm is going to be really important. But as you said, the key is health there. And sorry to ramble a bit, but that is my Pelicans team. I have to talk about them a bit. Moving on to your second take.
All right, so I guess I'll kind of break this up into two parts. But I think that Jason Tatum and Damian Lillard will both enter the MVP conversation. So I'll start off with Tatum. Losing Hayward definitely hurt the team from a talent perspective, but it opens up so many more wing minutes for Tatum, Brown, and Marcus Smart, Aaron Nesmith, some of the other guys. And I think that Kemba Walker's getting older. His offensive load is going to decrease. So a lot of that will go to Tatum and Brown in particular. And I think Tatum will just kind of ride off the success that he had late last season. And I think that Boston will play together cohesively a little bit better. And I think that they'll be a very high seed, and Tatum will enter the MVP conversation?
Um, I can see there's a couple of reasons why I don't really foresee that happening for either of them, and we'll get to that because they kind of relate to my takes coming up here. But with Tatum, they have a lot of mouths to feed on the wings and that guard. But obviously, as the best player on the team, he's going to play no matter what. It's not really going to affect his minutes personally, but just a lot of changing personnel and a lot of I think it's just going to hurt his chemistry overall. Where when you're trying to learn different rotations with Neesmith and with Brown, Kemba, with Edwards, with Langford. I mean, you've got a lot of guys that are going to be, and Marcus Smart. You've got a lot of guys that are going to rotating in here and just building chemistry with them. I think that's really going to hurt his assist numbers. But from a points per game perspective, and that's probably what most people care about in the MVP's discussion, I think he has a shot. But Damian, while he is a top 3 point guard, I think the competition in the West combined with my next take is really going to hurt him because I think the Portland Trailblazers will miss the playoffs. And I think that's going to be in part to an injury to one of their big three of Nurkic, McCollum, or Lillard himself. So if they miss the playoffs, there's no way you're going to reach the MVP conversation. You could be averaging 75 a game, and you probably still won't get it.
So I guess back to Damian Lillard. When I was doing my predictions, which is actually on the website, so go check out the website, triplethreatpodcast.com. But I was just looking at Portland, and I was like, wow, this team has gotten better. And this looks like the best team that Damian Lillard has played with since LaMarcus Aldridge or even in his whole career. Nurkic has had time to recover. He's fully recovered. He's going to be back in shape. And Nurkic was so much better than Whiteside. I think losing Whiteside helped the team a lot. It opens up minutes for Nurkic, Enes Kanter. Zach Collins is a nice young piece. Harry Giles, I know we've been high on him as Duke fans, and I always wish for the best, but he could maybe show some potential. And then there's CJ McCollum. There's Derek Jones Jr., who I think will –
He was very good.
Yeah, he'll be an exciting player to watch. Covington will help lock down the defense a little bit. And for Portland, let's see, they were 28th in defensive efficiency. So Covington, a healthy Nurkic, and Collins, Harry Giles, and Nasir Little, who, his big claim to fame is defense. So I think that now that everyone is back, they're healthy, I think that Portland as a whole will be a very good team. And I think that they're going to be a top 3 seed in the West. I think that the 2 LA teams will be 1 and 2, Lakers, Clippers. And then I think that 3 through 6 race will be pretty tight. But I see Portland coming out on top between them, Denver, Phoenix, and Dallas. And I think because of that, we're going to see a lot more attention placed on Damian Lillard. And his individual numbers have always been very good. But now that he has team success riding behind him, I think that he will be in the MVP conversation.
Yeah, I just worry about the defense overall of that whole team. I notice your little brings effort and energy to the defensive end of the floor. I just don't trust him as a player enough to get consistent minutes. Nurk just isn't the biggest positive on the defensive end. Obviously, Melo, Dame, and CJ are not the biggest positives of sub either. In fact, most of them are negatives. I just worry about
solid.
I just worry about them on the defensive end of the floor. But I think that if he was to get an MVP conversation, getting in those high-scoring shootout kinds of games is really going to help lead to that MVP conversation. And then you look at guys like James Harden and defense. Although you'll argue the statistics and you'll talk, he's got X amount of deflections. He's actually second in the league in deflections. His defense isn't that bad, but it's not good. So
it's really not.
The MVP is an offensive award, and I think that if he was to enter it, it would be off his offensive game. I think that.
Yeah, I think the scoring will go up. He's not going to be – him and CJ aren't going to be the only viable offensive threats anymore. And I think –
There are a lot of mouths to feed, though.
Yeah, there are. But I think guys like Covington like Covington, for example, knows his role. He knows that he is a 3-and-D kind of guy. Carmelo has accepted his role. Nurkic was always willing to be the pick-and-roll type guy. I know Derek Jones, he had to play behind Robinson, Hero, Kendrick Nunn, all those wings in Miami, so he kind of understands where he's going. Gary Trent and Rodney Hood, they kind of know their role as shooters. And I think Nasir Little will hopefully understand that he's there for defense more than offense. And I think also it will drive up Dame's assist numbers, which will help his case too.
I think Gary Trent Jr. was a very underrated player last season. I think what he did, like, he ended the season incredibly hot. So
Yeah.
I think there's just a lot of mouths to feed. But moving on, I've got your third take.
So I'm gonna skip over this one for now, talking about mouths to feed and my team, the Atlanta Hawks. I think that they're gonna have to give up they're gonna have to give up somebody at the deadline. They have so many mouths to feed. They probably have 11 or 12 guys that deserve quality minutes, and they're only 240 minutes total that a team can give out in an NBA game. So I think someone's going to be on the move. I think John Collins will be a likely contender for that. And then you put Okongwu in or Gallinari in at power forward. If he doesn't prove that he is a positive on defense and that he doesn't just bring offense and rebounding, he's going to be out of there because I don't want to pay him 5 years, $160 million like De'Aaron Fox or Bam Adebayo when he clearly does not deserve that. And then I could also see Tony Snell on the move. I think I could see Rondo on the move, unfortunately. And if Kevin Huerter doesn't live up to expectations, I think that we could see him and like Rondo packaged in a deal for a more experienced veteran who would help them out come playoff time. I know this is not like the best example, but kind of like what Toronto did with Marc Gasol, trading away Valanciunas, who already was a very good center, for Marc Gasol, who was integral in helping them win that championship.
I think that's actually a really, really good take because my take takes your take and makes it a little bit hotter because I'm getting a trade partner and players. I think the Celtics and Hawks make a blockbuster trade revolving around Collins or Capella. Both of these teams have a lot of mouths to feed. And, I mean, you could argue the Hawks have just as much guard depth as the Celtics do. Obviously not as quality guard depth, but they still have a lot.
Yeah.
But the Hawks have a lot of big men. Capella, Collins, Onyeka. They have a lot of guys that are fighting for minutes. So I think one of them is going to be on the move. I think taking Onyeka is a signal of that. And the fact that Collins is asking for the max is going to be you're either going to have to ship Capella's contract to make it work or shift Collins' plea just to ignore the contract. And then
get some value out of him.
Yeah, and then you mentioned those guards. I think the way Reg was playing, the way Reddish thrives, you need him to be able to have a role on the offense, a significant, substantial role, because he was playing extremely well towards the end of last season. And I think that if you want to see a high school top 3 player in the nation, Cam Reddish again, he's going to have to be the guy getting 25, 28 minutes a game.
Yeah.
And that worries me because you've got so many of these offensive guys in the Hawks, you need a lot of defensive presence. So there's 2 strong defensive backup point guards you guys have. So I think that, probably one of them might go. My guess would be Rondo. Yeah. But you look at this team. You look at this team, and then I can definitely see them trading some of their young offensive assets like Huerter for some more defensive-oriented guys.
Yeah, I think Huerter is a name that comes to mind just because Hunter has that defensive versatility and that potential, and that Yeah, I think you said it exactly right. At Duke, when Reddish got touches, when he got that confidence and he had that rhythm, that's when he hit that buzzer beater against FSU. That's when he, played like a lottery pick. But then when he got lost in the mix with Trey Jones, RJ, and Zion, that's when you start to see that. That's when you just start to see a prospect instead of a player, if you know what I mean.
So let's move things along. We've got 22 takes to get through today. I've got my third take, and it is probably my hottest. The Bulls become a top 5 team in the East with Kobe White and Zach LaVine making the All-Star game. Now, it sounds pretty crazy because, it's the Bulls. They're not good. But you look at the reasons why Billy Donovan chose to go to Chicago over many other appealing options like the Clippers, like the Sixers. I mean, the Sixers, they weren't going to get him because they had their guy Doc. Like the Pelicans. There were a lot of appealing teams, and he chose the Bulls. I think we saw at the end of the year, Kobe White really started to take it on. And I wrote this take before the preseason game last night because Kobe White looked great last night. And I think that Kobe White's offensive game and his speed, and combined with Zach LaVine's great shooting mechanics he's developed, as well as his athleticism and dynamism, I really think this team, coupled with Wendell Carter, Markkanen, and Otto Porter, they have a lot of pieces that make them a very compelling team. And then you mentioned their draft pick, Patrick Williams, right?
Mm-hmm.
This team, I think, has the ability to reach the upper echelons. We saw what Billy Donovan can do as a coach with the Thunder last season. A remarkable coaching job taking a subpar group of players that everyone thought was going to be at the bottom of the league and taking them to a real playoff nightmare to play against, because you don't want to play that Chris Paul, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander team, Steven Adams. You didn't want to play them. They were a ferocious bunch of players. And I think that the difference they're going to have from Boylan to Donovan, it's going to be a breath of fresh air for all these players. And they're
Yeah.
just going to have a great time. There's not going to be any players-only meetings with Billy Donovan. I think this is going to be a really, really refreshing team. I think it's been a while since the Bulls have been good, and I'm bullish on them. I think they have a real shot to do something special. And with all the change going around the Eastern Conference, you look at the Nets, so many new faces and new chemistry to be built there. You look at the Raptors have a lot of missing talent. They're missing Gasol. They're missing obviously Kawhi, but they're missing Ibaka. They miss some talent. Then you look at the Pacers. The Pacers have fallen off. They are disgruntled. I think there's some room for this team to wiggle their way into the upper echelon of the Eastern Conference. I think that this take might sound really hot, but I'm confident that this is going to happen. I really think that this is going to happen. And I really think we're going to see, the Patriots say this, but I think Kobe Bryant's going to be a really good player this year.
Yeah. I agree partially with this. Not the playoff thing. I think that they'll become a playoff team next year. I think that this year, Markkanen struggled last year. Wendell struggled at times. This year will be kind of getting the team to gel better and to kind of, bring some organization and order into a very dysfunctional Bulls team. But I guess my issues with them, the first part about the playoffs is I think Milwaukee, Boston, Miami, and Brooklyn by the end of the season will be, I think that's like the tier one in my eyes. That's like the first tier of teams. Then you have Philly, who's very close. Then you have Washington with Russell Westbrook, who is in a very good situation with Beal, Bertans, Thomas Bryant. And then Toronto, who I know they lost to Ibaka, they lost Gasol, but they still got Siakam, Kyle Lowry, so 2 All-Stars, Fred VanVleet. I don't know what the situation on Terrence Davis is, but yeah, he's there too. And then I might be a little biased, but I think that Atlanta will finally break through and get that 8 seed. So as of right now, I don't see them in playoff contention. They could easily jump into the mix. In my rankings, I have them 4 games behind Atlanta. So they could jump into the playoff mix, but I think I don't think that this team is good enough defensively with White, Levine, and Markkinen and Porter, and I think that the depth is pretty inconsistent. Denzel Valentine's pretty inconsistent. Thomas Satoransky is not the best at times. So I think those are the two things not really going for me. But I think in a year, Toronto's going to keep on declining. I think that either Philly or Washington could see someone big go. I think Indiana is going to be back into the lottery, and I think that opens up a playoff spot for Chicago to take. But I don't think that is this year.
My thinking is
And for
that
the
they just.
All-Star thing,
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
oh yeah, for the All-Star thing, I think if you just look at the East, if everything works out, there's Giannis, there's Kyrie, there's Trey, there's Durant, there's Bam, Westbrook, Ben Simmons, Siakam, Embiid, Beal, and Butler. And right there, that's an all-star team filled out. And I haven't even talked about Jaylen Brown or Zach LaVine yet, both of whom have very good chances to make it. If Kyrie gets injured, Durant doesn't play up to par, and someone like Brad Beal or Jimmy Butler just doesn't play as good as they did last year, I think that, yeah, I don't know, maybe Kobe White breaks out and Zach LaVine takes his spot, but I don't see both of them making an all-star game this year. But I see a lot more in the future.
It's a pretty hot take, but they have a lot of young players. They haven't had coaching. This team hasn't had the coaching at all, and
They
we've
had
seen
Jim
them.
Boylan.
Yeah, exactly. We've seen them struggle a lot, but I think we've seen a lot of potential from Levine, and I think that Kobe White's been showing a lot. I just think putting a easily top, I'd say he's a top 5 coach in the league.
Yeah.
Onto a team. I know there's a lot of good coaching in the East. You've got Budenholzer, you've got Nurse, you've got Brad Stevens, you've got Doc Rivers, you've got Spoelstra. You've got a lot of good coaches. But I think that this team is ready to take the step. I think that the change, just the complete juxtaposition between Boylan and Donovan is just really going to make this team play for Billy Donovan. They're just going to play harder. So I just think that this is going to be a surprise team. And this is going to be my one surprise team for the year. So that's my hot take. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. So I think I'll do my next kind of 2 takes, and they both revolve around Washington. When I look at this team and I just look at their depth chart, let me just pull it up for a second. I see a lot of floor spacing, and I see a team that Westbrook will benefit from a lot. You have Davis Bertans, who just got a big bag. Yeah. He was like a 15, 16 points per game scorer. I think he had the highest 3-point percentage in the league.
George Hill.
Oh, George Hill did. But he was up there.
He was top 3 for sure. I knew it was him, Redick, and Hill as top 3. I don't know the order of Redick and Bertans, but he was top 3.
And then Bradley Beal, how good Bradley Beal is. He's just a 3-level scorer. Not the best defender, but on the offensive end, he can get it done. Thomas Bryant is a very underrated player in my eyes. He averaged a quiet 14 points a game, 9 rebounds, and I think he shot above 35% from 3. So as a pick and roll and a pick and pop guy, I think Westbrook will benefit tremendously from that. Hachimura is there. And then my rookie of the year prediction, Deni Avdija.
This is really surprising for me.
Yeah. Just because you were much higher than him than I was. I think I gave the pick like a B-.
I think you might start out with a C+.
Yeah, and then I might have driven it up. But after looking at Avdija's shooting mechanics and the fact that he was able to hit NBA contested threes at such a good clip, at a perfect clip, and just all the playmaking and that European success translating to the MVP just from like 2 preseason games. I think that he's my rookie of the year candidate. I think that when you combine team success and the fact that Avdia will benefit Washington on all levels of shooting, playmaking, and scoring in the interior and exterior. I don't think we've seen that. I don't think we've seen that from very many rookies, and I don't think we will from this year's class. And that's why he is my pick for Rookie of the Year. And then back to Washington as a whole. This team can space the floor really well. I didn't even touch on Jerome Robinson, Rui Hachimura, Troy Brown, Mo Wagner, Robin Lopez. And I think that Westbrook is going to just raise their floor. He's going to raise them into the playoffs. He's not going to get much further than that, maybe second round at best. But I think that Westbrook has shown on multiple occasions that he can take crappy teams to the playoffs. And this team is far from crappy. They almost made the playoffs last year. And I think that this is their year. They're going to break out. And I have them as a 6th seed above Toronto and below Philly. Sorry, I rambled a little bit.
No, I think that's those two takes. So you have the right to take your time there. But I think that's a really good take there, because when you look at that team, they have the players, they have the quality. And then I agree with you on the Avdia take. I think that Avdia is going to be a really good player for them. And I probably would have made him my Rookie of the Year if you already didn't do it. So I think, and you're right about this draft class and not being NBA ready, the lack of preparation, the lack of time they've had with the team. I think that there's just the ambiguity and the question marks around all of this NBA draft class. I think it's going to be really hard to tell about who's going to win Rookie of the Year. But I think from I don't know what his odds are. Right? I'd be really interested to find out what his odds are. But my rookie,
pretty high.
No, hold on. My Rookie of the Year is going to be Chuma Okeke.
Yeah.
Pulling a Ben Simmons. Didn't play last year. Didn't even sign a contract last year. Signed a contract a month ago, almost to the day. He, in the absence of Jonathan Isaac, with a whole season to play his spot, is going to win Rookie of the Year, because this team doesn't have a lot of talent. He's going to get a lot of minutes in his preferred position with a decent surrounding cast of Bamba Vucevic, Markel, and
Aaron Gordon.
So he's got a decent cast. I think he is going to really excel. I think that being with the team for a year, having NBA knowledge, seeing the NBA for an entire year, and he would have been. We were bullish. We were very high on him coming out of the draft. We thought he was a top 6 or 7 player.
Yeah, if he didn't get injured, I think he would have gone at least in the top 8.
I think I probably had as my 4th or 5th best player in the draft. I'm super high on Chuma Okeke. I think the fact that no one realizes that he is eligible for the – my original take was just he was going to play at an all-star level. My take wasn't going to have him win Rookie of the Year until you pointed that out, that he was eligible. I'm like, oh, you're right. And I realized that it just clips like, wow, that's a pretty good take, because no one's thinking about that. I wasn't even thinking about that. I was trying to make a hot take here. So I think that this is going to be a pretty sneaky take here that I'm really a big fan of. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think I pulled up his college stats. I'm looking back at it. He's a very well-rounded player. I think that he definitely should be in the mix. And I think when I pointed that out, I kind of realized it too. And now he's in my top 3 or 5. I think the only thing that's stopping him doesn't really have to do with him, but it has to do with Orlando as a whole. They're a very forgettable team, if you know what I mean. Like, you kind of forgot that they've been in the playoffs for the last 2 years. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that they beat Milwaukee, and that they beat who was it? Oh, they beat Philly or something the year prior. And because of that, I don't think that Okeke will get the attention that he deserves. And with Okeke himself, people kind of forgot about him. He didn't sign that contract. He wasn't in 2K. I know that's a terrible reference point, but yeah, he wasn't in 2K. People kind of forgot that they drafted him at 15 and got an absolute steal out of him. But if he plays well, if Markel and the supporting cast holds up and kind of plays around him to elevate his game, I don't see why he couldn't be like in the top 3 at least.
I'm looking through the odds right now, and it's actually crazy to me looking at this because he's not even in the top 23. I know there's a lot of discrepancies when I'm looking at the guys from last year's draft class because there's some groups that have Bull at 4, but those same people don't even have Chuma in the top 20, or he's not even listed. And then you're looking at a group of like 23 guys, and you don't even see Chuma's name. I mean, this could be an incredible bet because I can't even find where the gamblers are talking about this, and they're like all on everything. So
Would you mind reading me like 20 through 23 or like 18 through 23?
Okay, here's one I just found, and this is the most extensive list I found. Ball, Anthony Edwards, Obi Toppin, James Wiseman, Killian Hayes, Denny Avdia, Tyrese Halliburton, Onyeka, Isaac Okoro, Kira Lewis, Patrick Williams, RJ Hampton, Pulisic, Quickly, Vassell, Precious. What?
Poku is that high?
What, Quickly?
No, Poku.
Oh,
the Thunder
Poku,
guy.
yeah. He is right behind RJ Hampton.
I don't think that dude doesn't even know what the word defense is.
He's at plus 6,000.
Okay.
Preston Chua, Cole Anthony, Mackay Flynn, Josh Green, Tyrese Maxey, Jalen Smith, Shanique Bay, Aaron Neesmith, Isaiah Stewart, Azubuike, Bain, Bolmaro, McDaniels, Zeke.
Wait, isn't Bolmaro a draft and stash?
I'm pretty sure he is. Pritchard, Trey Jones, Theo Maldian, Kenyon Martin Jr., Tyrell Terry.
What the? Oh, wow. Wait, so...
Just for reference, Terry is at plus 10,000.
Wait, so is Okiki eligible then? Because they can't forget about him.
I mean, they clearly, they don't have... I'm seeing some with Bull in here as well. I think DraftKings has Bull at 4 at plus 2,500. I just think people have...
wow.
And then most lists don't even have Bull, so clearly Bull is eligible. I just don't think is Chuma Okeke eligible? I'm pretty sure he is. I mean, he has to be.
No, he's eligible. So the one that I'm looking at is on the score, which is somewhat reputable. It's pretty reputable.
Oh, I see that now.
Yeah. So Ball, Toppin, Edwards, Wiseman, Hayes, Avdia, Halliburton, Okoro, Williams.
Yeah, I'm at plus 60.
Bull. Yeah, I think that he has better chances than Poku, Neesmith, Green, Jalen, Sadiq, Kyra. Maybe, yeah, I'd say
Maxey,
over
Anthony. I mean, definitely over. I think over Onyeka because I don't know how much Onyeka's minutes.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll get that many times.
He's better than Okoro for sure.
Yeah, but okay, don't sleep on Okoro though.
But okay, they play on the same. Okeke's better.
Yeah, no, they played on the same high school team.
I know.
Same college, too.
Okeke's much better.
Yeah. But,
so
yeah.
Steele, we found one thing where he's even listed. So get your Bull bits in. Bull. I wouldn't do Bull. Definitely Okeke. Okeke is an absolute steal right now.
And I only got that because I looked up Chuma Okeke Rookie of the Year.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Your next take, Ishan.
Yeah, that was shocking. But the next take is, I think that Serge Ibaka will prove to be a better overall fit for the Clippers than Montrezl Harrell. I don't know if it's that hot of a take. I like Harrell. I like the energy that he brings. He gives me that underdog vibe, and I always like that. But I think Denver exploited a lot of Harrell's game, and a lot of that just repetitive pick and roll type stuff that the Clippers ran. And that's all they could run with Harrell because he's not a very good floor spacer. But now you bring Ibaka, who is a far better shot blocker and rim protector. And then on top of that, a better floor spacer. I think that brings so much to the Clippers because let me pull up some stats. I know that they were pretty high in three-point percentage, but I think that now they'll get more they'll get more three-point volume, and they just won't have to run that same easily exploitable pick and roll that they always had to run with whatever point guard and Harrell.
Well, I don't question the fit. My problem is just the leadership and the whole culture of the Clippers right now. I think Mr. Load Management is going to have his way. He is clearly the loudest, not maybe the loudest presence, but the most influential presence in that organization now that Doc is gone.
Yeah.
And I don't think that Ty Lue commanded the respect that Paul George and Kawhi Leonard had for Doc Rivers. I just don't think the body of work is there. And I just think the whole culture, the whole identity of this team is going to be lost. And I don't doubt that Kawhi can single-handedly do that himself. He's just not a vocal leader. And I just don't think this team has – I mean, Lou Will doesn't want to be there. Lou Will wants out.
Oh, he's going to be traded by the deadline.
Yeah, so I think the team's going to lose their vocal leaders in the locker room. You lose Trez, you lose Lou Will, you're losing your bench identity. I think this team struggles to make the playoffs. I think that they get complacent. They know that they're one of the better teams talent-wise in the West, and I think that they get complacent and they have to struggle. They have to fight and claw their way to get in the playoffs, and that's my take. That the Clippers barely make the playoffs, and I think they're going to lose in the first round because they're going to be a 7 or 8 seed. They're going to be playing Lakers, Mavs, Sun. Maybe not that high Sun, but they might be playing the Suns with like the 6 seed, the Suns, the Nuggets. I think the team's going to have a really hard time in the playoffs because they are going to be draining all of their energy into making the playoffs because I think this team's going to get really complacent.
Yeah, I can see that happening. I have them as a 2nd seed just because Paul George will be healthy. I think that now that Trez and Lou Will be gone, or are gone and will be gone, I think that players will kind of command more respect for Kawhi and Paul George because they're the only ones that really weren't into it. Oh yeah, Pat Bev too, but he just barks. And then I think that Kawhi, he's fully recovered, so there's no need for him to manage his load. Like, I'm pretty sure he's healthy. I could be
It doesn't
wrong.
matter if he's healthy or not. He's going to load manage.
Yeah. I hope he doesn't, but there's no need for him to. And if he doesn't, now you have a team that's played together cohesively for pretty much the whole year. And look, on paper, they're a very good team, and they're filled with talented players. So if they just play cohesively, if Paul George is fully recovers, and if Kawhi Leonard fully recovers and doesn't do the whole stupid load management thing, then yeah, I can have this team. Then I have to see him as the 2nd best team in the West confidently. But if they don't, they could easily implode and do what almost happened to Boston with Kyrie. And then that just means you're moving the star. And you got to start over a little bit.
Yeah, so that was my take. What's your next take, Ishan?
So I think I've touched on this a little bit, but I have Portland as the 3rd best team in the West in terms of record. They're gonna have a top.
I think you've already done the take, haven't you?
Yeah, I know. I want to make sure I got that one right.
Yeah, you did.
Okay, cool. So I think the next one, and this is also, it will segue into one of your takes, so that's why I'm doing it. But I think that Luka is going to have a crazy, crazy good season. He's gonna go like nuclear sicko mode. Sorry for saying that.
Nuclear sicko.
we'll edit something better in maybe. But he's gonna go crazy.
My host for our editor.
He's gonna have like a crazy season. And in terms of the best individual player, I think that distinction will go to Luka. But I don't see him winning MVP just because I have Dallas as the 6th seed in the West. I think the Lakers are going to be the number 1 seed. They're going to load manage a little bit with such a short offseason for LeBron and AD. So there'll be a couple of games dropped here and there, but they're head and shoulders above everyone else. Then the Clippers, if everything goes right. Then Portland and then I have Portland at 46 wins, Denver at 45, Phoenix at 44, and Dallas at 43. So if they win 3 more games, then yes, Luka's my MVP. He's a top 3. He has a top 3 team in the West. But right now, if he's at number 6, I think people will just look at the seed and people just look at the individual numbers. And if the seed is not there, then I don't see him winning MVP. But I see all NBA first team, all-star starter, everything else, all of that.
Well, you were right. So this does lead perfectly into my next take. I'm gonna combine 2 into 1.
All right.
I think that the Mavs are going to be led to the 2nd seed by Luka Doncic's magnificent performances, and he's going to solidify himself as a top 3 player. But you would think that would give an MVP performance, getting his team to the 2nd place in the conference. But I have Steph Curry almost winning another unanimous MVP. Not unanimous because Luka's been incredible. It's going to be incredible this year. But I think Steph Curry is going to hit 2017, 2016 levels of dominance. I think that he, without Clay, with Wiseman getting more rebounds than probably ever gotten before, with Wiggins, with the best player in the league, Kelly Oubre, Draymond Green is back. I think this team is ready. And I think Steph Curry as the best player and as the best point guard in the league, not even close.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that Steph Curry is going to go 30 points a game. I think he's going to go in – he's going to go crazy. I think he'll go like 45 from 3. He's going to go 45, 50, 90. He's going to be ridiculous this year. I think that braided Curry is a different breed, and he is going to go lights out. But Luka is going to be the 2nd best player. He's going to be solidifying himself as a top 3 because, LeBron is always going to be that number 2 guy. He's always going to be that number 1 guy. He's always going to be up there in top 3. He may not look like it. He may not get the votes like it, but we all know he's there. We all know LeBron. We're not going to question his greatness. But Luka's going to be the 2nd best regular season player behind Steph Curry, and the Mavs are going to be the 2nd best team in the West.
That's a very respectable take. I like it. Your takes don't they're not the most common takes. We'll put it at that.
I tried to go.
The Chumo Kiki take I really love. That's like my favorite take between the 2 of ours. But
I give the credit to you. I'm just gonna go happy with Mike. He's gonna play at an all-star level. You're the one that put that above and beyond and just made that crazy.
I know you collect cards. Get a rookie card.
I should.
Because I was looking at the Rookie of the Year stuff, and I saw Chumo Kiki rookie card. That might be a solid bet.
If I'm not lazy enough, I will put a Chumo Kiki auto card and look at the price. What is it? What is it going for right now? Because that is
Christmas is in 8 days.
A Prism autographed card for $55. RPA for 100. RPA for 80. These are some pretty tempting things right here. You make a very good point.
Dude, that could be crazy.
All right. A rated rookies for $60. Wow. All right. I think we might have a podcast investment on a Chumo Okiki card that we will have throughout the year. Each episode at the beginning of we're just gonna be it is now worth $80. It is in the end of the year it is now worth $300.
Yeah.
The triple threat Chumo
you see that
card.
kid, when he was 13 years old, he spent $40K on a Giannis rookie card, and now that card is worth 1.3 mil. I think the investment is crazy, but a 13-year-old with 40K
I
to
was about
spend
to
on a
say,
sports card
how did he
is actually crazy.
How did he find his mom's credit card password to get 40K for a Giannis card?
Bro, he's either some like kid entrepreneur prodigy or he has really nice parents.
All right, go into your
But-
next takes. We're going a little bit long.
I was gonna keep on talking about the whole Luka thing.
All right.
I think the only reason why I have them dropping games is because of Kristaps' durability.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think that's the biggest X factor. He's such a talented player, and he complements Luka really nicely, especially now that they have Josh Green, Josh Richardson. I think that Kristaps is a very good player, but I don't know how his knees are going to hold up. And that's why I kind of accounted for that in my standings. And then initially I had Luka as my MVP, but then I'm like, I think this year it's going to be LeBron kind of by default. Voter fatigue in my eyes knocks Giannis completely out. The last player to get 3 straight MVPs was Larry Bird in the 80s. Like, not even MJ, Kobe, Shaq, LeBron were able to do that. Steph is definitely there. And I think that returning from pretty much a whole season off, he's going to be pretty rusty at the beginning of the year. And I think that non-sustained level of dominance, and I think the first couple months of hardship and gelling with a new team will hurt his MVP stock. But by the end of the year, he could very well be the second or third best player in the NBA. I think LeBron's the best. Let's see. My take here is about Philly. And I think that they're going to be bounced out of the first round. And they're just not going to live up to your expectations and the expectations of other people.
We'll get into my expectations in a bit.
Yeah, but I think Milwaukee is going to have the best record, followed by Boston, then Miami, and then the Nets. And I think that Philly's a 5 seed, so they're going to match up with the Nets in the playoffs. And while they're a very good defensive team with shooters, I don't know if they'll be able to stop Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, LeVert, Allen, Dinwiddie, that whole group right there. Because for the Nets, I expect them at a 4 seed just because I think that they're going to have a slow start to the year. I think they're going to spend the first month or two just kind of getting things together like the 2011 Heat did. And then they're just, by the time, like, I'm trying to adjust to the schedule, but like February, March hits,
Yeah,
I think that they'll
difficult.
be in full swing, and I think they're going to have a lot of momentum coming into the playoffs. And when they face Philly, I think that they'll be able to beat them in 6.
Well, I can see that happening, but I think that there's one thing that makes this team different. I think we have to go back and look at rookie year, second year, Ben Simmons, and what he was able to do offensively with JJ Redick and that team. What he was able to do when there was floor spacing around him, he was incredible in that rookie year. I think that he can surpass those levels now because you bring in guys like, he's much maligned, but Danny Green is an incredible shooter. I mean,
Yeah.
he was not
Seth
good.
Curry.
He was not good at all at the end of the year, but he's still a great shooter. Seth Curry is an elite shooter. And then you pair that with Embiid, who's probably above average shooting center, and Tobias Harris, who's an average shooting 4. I think that here's my take, is that with the addition of shooters and Doc Rivers, Simmons becomes a top 3 player at whatever position he plays, whether that be power forward or point guard. I think that he will solidify himself as a top 3 player wherever he plays. I just think that, one, he's working on a shot. And I think that if he can make you take a step closer to him and have you remotely respect the option of shooting, as well as the presence of guys that you have to respect in Green and Curry, it really opens up a whole different layer of his game, and it opens up the creativity and the dynamism that he offers on the offensive end, which just makes me think that he has the ability, with great coaching and great spacing, to be able to really maximize and get the best out of him. Because I think with Al Horford and Josh Green and with Jimmy Butler, he's been limited the past couple of years, but I think now is the focal point of this team, at least on the offensive end. I think that he's really going to take a step forward and become the player that we think he could be. I think that they still might get knocked out of the playoffs in the first round. I don't want to argue with that. The East is very competitive this year, but I think that this team is going to be a real threat. I think that Simmons alone will be a top 3 player in whatever position he plays.
You know what? I actually agree with that take. And I think the one part that you forgot about was I think that he was a top 2 or 3 defender in the league last year. Just looking at his stats, looking at his numbers, and looking at his production, I think he really broke out as a defender last year, and no one really talked about it. I'm pretty sure he had nearly 2 steals and 2 blocks a game. And I have 80 as my Defensive Player of the Year winner, but right behind him at runner-up is Ben Simmons. So that combined with a totally new coaching group that's not Brett Brown, who is a terrible coach in my eyes, and with the addition of shooters, I think he can definitely become a top 3 player at his position.
I think it was 2 years ago where I put Ben Simmons as my Defensive Player of the Year, and I got a lot of slander for that because I don't think the last time a point guard won the Defensive Player of the Year was like the 80s. It's been a while since a point guard's got that honor. So I do think that his defense and offensive game with the presence of shooters is really going to make him a great player. So that's going to be my take.
Yeah.
And how many takes do we have left? I think I've got 1,
Let's see.
2. I think I've got 2 takes left.
I have 2 takes left too.
All right. Hit us with your penultimate take, Ishan.
Okay, it's the Hawks. I think that Gallinari will be 6th man of the year. He's already in contention. So if you don't know, the Hawks are going to run Trey. They're going to run with Trey, Bogdanovich, Hunter for defense, and then Collins Capella. And that leaves Gallinari off the bench. I already know what he's going to bring to the table. He's going to bring 18 to 20 points, 18 to 20 efficient points per game. And I think that he'll give Atlanta a big offensive boost. And they ranked dead last in 3-point shooting last year. And they ranked close to last in offensive efficiency. So Gallinari off the bench, will be that offensive spark that will kind of push them into playoff contention. And now that Atlanta will be a winning team, and now that Trae Young has players to kind of ease the load off of him, Gallinari is going to be, that guy off the bench, and I think that he could win the award.
I don't disagree with that. I think that's going to be a very competitive award, but I think if you look at the work that Gallinari has done in the past and averaging 20 points a game, I legitimately think that Gallinari probably is the front runner for the award at this point. I think that maybe if Dennis Schroeder is going to play off the bench for the Lakers, I don't know how Vogel's going to manage that, or how I should say LeBron's going to manage that. But I think that Schroeder stands a good chance. I think that if JJ starts on the bench, JJ has a good shot at that too, considering the Pelicans.
Oh, Harrell.
Montrez definitely going to be on the bench, so he's going to be in the contending for that as well. I think maybe it might be a little bit hot, but Tim Hardaway Jr.
Yeah.
I think he's got a shot there. But Lou Will is not his award anymore this year. I don't think it will be, at least. I legitimately think that this could be his award this year. And I think that his experience and his offensive ability is really going to overshadow his defensive ability, and it's going to make him just the front runner for this award. So I got no qualms about this. I just worry about rotational minutes with Hunter and Reddish.
Yeah. So, moving on to your take, there's one that's extremely hot and one that I agree with. So I'm going to leave
hot for last.
Okay.
Hot for last.
Yeah, I'm going to go with hot for last. The Monty Williams one is something that I agree with. He rides in the hot finish into
Hey,
coach
let
of
me
the
let me
year.
say my take, Isha.
Oh,
Come
my bad, my
on.
bad, my bad, my bad, my bad.
I think
That
Mark
second,
Williams
okay,
is gonna ride his hot hand and hot finish of last season into a coach of the year performance and to a playoff series win. Had to add the last little part in there.
yeah. That's why I don't want to finish it off.
Well, I'll give off my reasoning. One, I think Monty is a great coach. I think that the personnel that they have is also really impressive. I think that they have a lot of wing versatility. McCall, Green, um,
Crowder.
Then you got Ayton take another step into development. Booker took a huge step up. You look at
Cam
that
Johnson.
great shooter. I think that bringing in Chris Paul as well. We'll get to Chris Paul, but I want to talk about the end of last season because what they did in the bubble was incredible. And I know that this is going to be probably a more media-concentric take because the Suns are it's a people's team, it's a hipster pick because they were so good and people are recency bias is a huge factor here because the last thing that we saw from them was winning 8-9 straight games. And they didn't get to play in the playoffs, and we didn't get to see them lose. They haven't lost a game in months. So our perception of this team is still incredibly high. So I think that that's going to be a little bit of a bias. So this take's not going to seem as hot as it actually is because I think that people are probably too high on the Suns, or not too high on the Suns. I think they're really going to exceed expectations, but I think that relative to what they have been, I think their expectations are extremely high. But I think that with the great coach combined with the leadership and mentality of Chris Paul and what he's going to bring out of players like Booker, I think this team, with the talent that they have, the drafting that they've taken, they have all the right pieces. They have defense, they have shooting, they have mentality, they have scoring. This team is ready to take a step. The problem is the West is so hard, but I have them taking a 6 seed right now. I think they have 44 wins. And you look at their win total right now, it's at 30.5. That's quite high. That's like on the same level as actually it's not that high. It's still lower than teams like Utah, 4 games lower than Utah, and the same as the Warriors. So I think the Warriors and Suns are some really good values on the over. Hammer those two. I think that those two teams are really going to exceed expectations by a mile. So Phoenix Suns are my 6 seed. I have them playing the Nuggets. I have them playing the Mavericks in the first round, unfortunately. I think they beat the Mavericks. But what I think is actually going to happen is more likely going to happen because my predictions are a little bit hot. I think I'm probably going to play like maybe the Nuggets or the Rockets in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, maybe not the Rockets. Probably more like Clippers or
Denver.
Nuggets in the first round. And I think they win that matchup.
It's funny you say that because I have the Suns at a 5 seed, actually with 44 wins too. And I have them beating the Nuggets in the first round. Then they have to go on to play the Lakers, and it's going to be over from there. But I think that you were absolutely right. Booker is an excellent scorer. Ayton is an absolute behemoth in the paint. And from a pick-and-roll perspective, that's going to be like the Steven Adams that Chris Paul had.
And he missed the whole beginning of the season last year because of his blood suspension.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, there's Bridges, there's Crowder, Cam Johnson, a bunch of 3-and-D wings, and then Jalen Smith, Dario Saric. This team is really, really good. They have, in my opinion, the coach with the best or second best odds right now to win Coach of the Year. And I think you're absolutely right on both parts. I think that Monty Williams, I think I might have Brad Stevens as Coach of the Year, but I think that Monty Williams can be the Coach of the Year. And I think he has a very good chance. And then on top of that, I have them winning a playoff series against Denver. Because I think people will start to kind of key in on Jamal Murray a little bit more. Denver lost Jeremy Grant and Mason Plumlee. So I think they're not going to be as good as everyone thinks that they will be. So
I'm trying to pull up the Coach of the Year odds right now.
Yeah. Okay, so this is Vegas Insider.
What do they have him at?
Sorry, it's just loading. Okay. Wow. This is
Plus
gonna.
1,400 I see right now.
Yeah. Steve Nash.
Is
Wow.
that, is the that is crazy to me that Steve Nash is the favorite for Coach of the Year.
Tyronn Lue? What?
He has the same odds of Tyronn Lue. Just let that
Tyronn
sit.
God, bro. Wait, Billy Donovan is that low?
What's Billy Donovan's odds
Plus
at?
2,500. Donovan and Mike Budenholzer. Nate Bjorkgren of the Pacers is higher than both of them.
That
Lloyd
is
Pierce is
crazy.
higher than both of them. Van Gundy's at 16. Doc Rivers is at 16. I think they should be higher. Yeah, they'll hype up Rick
These are
Carlisle a
some
little bit.
crazy. These are some crazy odds.
Wow. Wait, Nick Nurse is at plus 3,300.
I did see that.
What? A top 5 coach in the league. And I don't think that's really a hot take anymore. I think he's established that. There's Dwayne Casey has the same odds as him. James Borrego does.
This is actually
my-
ridiculous. These odds are.
Steve Kerr and Greg Popovich are literally have the same odds as Tom Thibodeau.
Wow.
They're both dead last.
They're Pop and
Pop
Kerr.
and Steve Kerr.
Wow.
Arguably the two best coaches of the decade.
Kerr slander is really stepping up here.
Wow.
This is ridiculous. Wow, those are some good tempting bets right there.
Okay, yeah. Hopefully I get some cash for Christmas that I can use to make some worthy investments. But actually, speaking of Popovich and the Spurs, my next take, I actually have the Spurs. To be very honest with you, they're the 12th seed in the West for me. But I would not count them out of playoff contention. DeRozan looks a lot better. I think Aldridge will be gone. And they have a very underrated young core of DeJounte, Derek White, Lonnie Walker, Devin Vassell, Luka Samanic, and Keldon Johnson. And all these guys are in their 5th year or less. I'm pretty sure all under 24. And they've all shown flashes of really good two-way potential. But Lonnie Walker is the player that I want to talk about. When he gets the chance, he almost never disappoints. I remember they gave him like 20 minutes once last year, and he ended up scoring like 14 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and shot above 50% from the field and above 40% from 3. Lonnie Walker, he's an athletic freak. He has like some of the longest arms I've seen. He can score at all 3 levels, great shooter. And I think that he'll kind of work his way into the conversation for most improved player if Popovich finally gives him the minutes that he deserves.
Yeah. All seems very achievable at this point. I just don't know. I don't know what else to add to that. They do have some decent options at the guard spots, which worries me a bit
He
about
could get
minutes
bogged
still.
down in the lineup a little bit.
That would be my only really concern, but definitely an improvement over last season.
Yeah.
But I think for the sake of time,
17 last preseason game. All right, for the sake of time, we're just going to get to the last take.
The last take. It is hot. It is spicy. It is a 3-parter.
I think it's,
in my opinion,
the hottest one we've said.
One of the ones I want to take out, but I had to keep it in here for the sake of hotness, for the sake of we've built this up so much. I have to keep the last part in.
Yeah.
I think James Harden is going to stay in Houston. They can't find a trade partner anywhere. There's no one that can match the assets he's worth, and no one that's going to pay the assets that Houston's going to demand for him. Or anyone that could absorb that contract, especially with a deal like his. I think that they are unable to find a trade partner at all. Only realistic destinations would probably be, you look at the Suns, they'd have to give up Chris Paul, which I would never do, but that's the only contract that makes sense. Or you look at the Sixers and give up Ben Simmons, and at this point, I wouldn't do that either. But I think Harden stays, and I think that they become the best offense in the NBA. I think I don't care what his attitude, what Harden's attitude is about playing basketball. He's going to be incredible on the floor. He's an incredible player. His shooting ability and his mastery of the dark arts. Whether you want to like that he abuses the foul rules or the travel rule, I mean, he gets away with it and he scores a ton of points. He averages 35 a game last year. Like what he does is
Yeah.
actually ridiculous.
Mhm.
I think coupled him with a more efficient player on offense and someone that matches his skill set more in John Wall, who will be, by all accounts, a much better partner for him. I think both of these players are ending up better. Westbrook's in a better situation, Wall's in a better situation. I
Yeah.
think these are two winners of this trade. I think that Harden, he's got to get over himself. He's like, okay, I got John Wall now. Let alone to add, you just added Chris Wood, who's an incredible player in the paint. This team has the ability to be the best offense in the league. I still worry about the coaching situation, but still, I don't think coaching is as important when you have guys like who run the ISO as much as Harden does.
Mhm.
Just let him roll. I mean, this is one of the rare situations where coaching on offense really doesn't matter because Harden is going to play ISO. He's going to do what he does. It doesn't really matter. Just get out of the way and let him do what he does. So I think they're going to be the number one offense. I'm not talking about offensive efficiency. I'm just talking about points because
Yeah.
we can question their offensive efficiency, but they will be the number one offense. And then I think that this is going to help them reach the conference finals. Now, right now, I have them playing the Mavericks in the first round. That is I have them playing, that's when I'm playing the Warriors in the first round.
Yeah.
Oh, I take it back. I apologize. I have the Suns as a 5 seed. I was looking at the wrong things. The Suns are playing the 5 seed, they're playing the Nuggets in the first round. We have the exact same thing. I have the Rockets playing the Warriors in the first round. That would be an incredible series. But there's one team much more experienced. Wiggins, Oubre, and Wiseman don't have much playing experience. John Wall, James Harden do. I think that this team could easily win that series. They're probably hungry at that point. I mean, Harden's tired of losing to the Warriors. I think that's a winnable series. Then you go in and they're going to play
Dallas or New Orleans.
Dallas or New Orleans. It'll be a tough series, but I mean, I'd consider them to be able to win that game. So I'd comfortably sit here and say, not comfortably. It's very hot. It is very hot. There's 3 parts. And they all have to happen, but I think it's not too out of the question to see the number one offense, Houston Rockets, led by James Harden in the conference finals this year.
Yeah. I think when I first saw the take, I'm like, okay, what is he thinking? But now that I kind of look at it, there's Dallas in your bracket, like the way your playoffs are kind of built. That whole 2-7-3-6, that half of the Western Conference playoffs is Dallas, Golden State, Houston, and New Orleans. New Orleans, I don't think will make it past the second round. Will make it out of those 4 teams just because of a lack of experience.
I mean, I'd love to see that happen, but
yeah.
Being reasonable.
I think that having Clay gone in the playoffs will certainly hurt. And I think Wiseman, Oubre, and Wiggins, who have like a combined total of 3 playoff berths.
It's all Oubre, right?
So Wiggins had one with Minnesota.
He did. Oubre had
those ones with Washington, but I don't know how significant you'd call those. Because he didn't. Those were his early days when he wasn't getting playing time.
And then Wiseman just hasn't played NBA basketball.
Yeah.
Or college basketball. He's played 3 games.
Yeah.
Draymond hasn't played last year. Curry hasn't played last year.
And then Dallas, with Kristaps' durability, he could very well be out come playoff time. And they also have a pretty young team that's looking to develop. So if you just look at it through that logic, yeah, I can see Houston making it out, but then eventually losing to the Lakers.
That's what happened. I was never going to say the finals, but I think conference finals.
Yes, conference finals. It's if the Clippers implode, like you said they would, and if the seeding kind of works out in that way, where Denver and Phoenix are both playing in that same half with the Lakers, yes, conference finals. I think that's very doable.
I think what I've learned from this is that if you talk about takes in front of the camera, you're gonna buy into them.
Yeah.
I think I'm
they're very
sold on
promising.
all 11 of these takes right now.
Yeah.
All right, so let's wrap it up. Ishan, let's go through your 11 takes. Just wrap it up here. So,
All right, just to summarize, Zion and Ja both become all NBA caliber or all NBA players. Tatum and Damian are in the MVP candidate conversation. Denny wins Rookie of the Year. The Hawks are forced to give up 1 to 2 role players at the deadline. The Wizards have a better record than the Raptors. Ibaka is a better fit for the Clippers than Harrell. Luka's the best regular season player but doesn't win MVP because Dallas won't have the team success. Lonnie Walker's in the conversation for most improved player. Philly fails to meet expectations and is bounced in the first round. The Trailblazers are a top 3 seed in the West, and Gallo wins 6th Man of the Year.
and give me your hottest take and your most guaranteed lock out of those 11.
So I think my hottest take is the Damian Lillard MVP conversation thing and the Trailblazers being a top 3 seed. I think the most sure thing, it's between Washington and Ibaka. I think Washington,
You wouldn't say Gallo?
I think just because of LA and the market and the national attention that they're in, I think that's going to help Schroeder and Harrell a lot.
Especially if the Hawks make the playoffs.
Yeah. And I think, like, Atlanta has a total of 3 nationally televised games this season, which makes absolutely no sense in my eyes. But
And the Pelicans have, 30-something?
yeah, you guys have, something crazy.
Oh, God, I'm so happy to be an out-of-market Pelicans fan right now.
But I think because of that, Gallo, his chances will be a little bit deflated, even though he doesn't deserve that.
Fair point.
But I think, I think the most sure thing for me is going to be Ibaka, actually. I'll go with that one.
Well, now here's mine. First take, Pelicans become a top 10 defense and Brandon Ingram becomes an all-NBA player. I do think Brandon Ingram is a better player of Zion and Brandon Ingram. I think ESPN had Zion at 18 and Brandon at 30-something.
Yeah, that's just clickbait.
That is.
It's clickbait.
I have the Bulls become a top 5 team in the East with White and Levine making the All-Star. Steph Curry wins NBA MVP almost unanimously. Celtics and Hawks have a blockbuster trade involving Collins and Capella. Harden stays in Houston and reaches the conference final while being the NBA's best offense. The Trailblazers fail to make the playoffs due to an injury of one of the big 3. The addition of shooters along with Doc Rivers causes Simmons to become a top 3 player in whatever position he plays. Monty Williams rides the hot finish into a Coach of the Year win and a playoff series victory. The Clippers lose direction completely and almost miss the playoffs and lose in the first round. Luka Doncic and the Mavs. Luka Doncic leads the Mavs to number 2 seed, solidifying himself as a top 3 player, and Chuma Okeke wins Rookie of the Year in the absence of Jonathan Isaac. My lock is probably going to be in between Ben Simmons or the Pelicans becoming a top 10 defense. I think that Brandon Ingram is already a top 15 player in the league, so I think that him making an All-NBA team is pretty much going to happen. I think that you look at a team that if they make the 7th seed like I predict them to, they have a defensive identity that they're trying to unlock, and that is the focal point of this team that they want to identify. They want to become gritty. Steven Adams is a great addition to that, and then Gundy, that's what he wants. That's what he's going to get. I think that's going to be my lock, and then the Bulls being a top 5 team is definitely my hottest take.
Yeah, no, that was your hottest by far.
And then White and Levy making the All-Star. I think both of those are very hot. But overall, what do you think our hit rate is going to be at the end of the season?
So out of out of 11.
Out of 22.
Oh, out of 22. Here, I think let me just kind of go through them, and then
I'll go first while you're looking over that. Without looking at it, I'd say we hit 60%. I think that's
really solid.
I think that these are hot, and I think that there's probably like 3 of each that are probably not going to happen. They're just too hot. But I think that we were reasonable enough to hit 60% or 14 of our 22 predictions.
Yeah. Mhm. And I think, yeah, I would say for me, I think I was thinking about like 7. And then for you, probably like 6 or 7, just because some of those takes are, I think the multi-part takes are going to hurt you a little bit, just because you'll have one part that's right and then one part that's wrong.
Like Monty Williams, not when he goes to
like
the Suns winning the playoff
exactly.
series.
Or
I would count that as a semi-win. I'd give myself a half point for that.
okay, so if I give half points, then I think we're both anywhere between 6 and 8, just so right around the middle, or a little bit above the middle. I can't do math.
Well, I hope you enjoyed, but before we finish it off, as Ishan mentioned earlier, please check out the website, triplethreatpodcast.com. This is Ishan's child, pretty much.
It's great. We have articles coming out. I know I did my prediction. Will is gonna give his predictions on that. You can contact us through there. And the best part about it, in my opinion, is you can listen to all the podcasts through the website locally, so you don't have to go to Spotify. Actually, go to Spotify. We need money. or anywhere else. But yeah, triplethreatpodcast.com is going to be the hub for everything Triple Threat Podcast related. We'll have articles, all our podcasts, and maybe some cool exclusive content that will just be on the website.
I think the biggest news of all is that we finally ditched Mac and MacBook and gone to like actual editing. So we're going to be able to edit videos quicker and actually get them uploaded in the same day without waiting like 10 hours for my 2012 MacBook to catch on fire for some reason. So that is a big plus. So I think
don't worry. I don't have a MacBook Air or a MacBook Pro. I have the MacBook. So it was that thing that Apple released in like 2016, and it's like smaller than an Air. It's tiny, and it's so bad. Like my shift key barely works, bro.
Dude. This thing has 2 cores locked at 1.4 gigahertz. Dude, my computer has 6 cores locked at like 4.
Yeah. Bro, yeah.
Well, that'll do it for Triple Threat Podcast. Take care. Leave your suggestions below and have a good one.